Hello, my name is Bill Wright. I'm a model railroader in Houston, Texas. Each year, our local model railroad club sponsors a fall open house layout tour. This year, 2020, we will do a virtual tour rather than an open house tour. Welcome to the Green Bay Southern Railroad. In Houston, houses do not have basements. My railroad room was designed as a part of the house from the beginning. The room is approximately 23 by 42 feet. During this virtual tour, I will point out some of the unique features of this room. I modeled the Green Bay and Western Railroad, which operated for about 100 years in Wisconsin. I named it the Green Bay Southern so I could do some things my way and not have to strictly follow the prototype. The town names correspond to actual town names on the Green Bay and Western. The chief feature of the Green Bay and Western that I liked was a car ferry on Lake Michigan. That was the eastern terminus for the Green Bay and Western. The railroad traveled across Wisconsin to Winona, Minnesota, where it interchanged with the Burlington. The Green Bay and Western also dieselized early in 1948. I modeled 1956. The railroad car ferries crossing Lake Michigan provided better service for moving railroad cars than having to route the trains through Chicago. I've modeled some of the signature buildings in Green Bay, as well as the track plan for Norwood Yard in Green Bay. I also enjoy creating some scenes that tell a story. So let's go take a look at the railroad. Thank you. This is the view you see when you enter the railroad room. The trestle here I call Kelly Trestle, after the modeler who built it for me. We were rushing to get ready for an operating weekend with a lot of modelers coming in from all over the country. He built this trestle, which was a kit. I gave him the curve for traced out the curve for him. He later entered it into a regional contest and won an award for it. Now, you're going to ask, what is an ore dock and an ore boat doing on Lake Michigan? Well, my railroad is designed to be a three-level railroad. The lower level is staging. The second level is the Green Bay Southern. The helix is the Sioux line connecting the Green Bay and Southern Railroad with the Duluth, Mesabi, and Iron Range Railroad. I had the ore dock about half built when we built it for the old layout in the old house, when we started this house. So I completed it and decided to put it on this level rather than the third level, which I may not live long enough to build. This is the scene to the left of the entry door. The building is Assassin Vinegar, which is a builder and scale kit, a craftsman kit. Took me probably a year to build it, although if I'd worked diligently on it without other distractions, it could have done it in less time. The car is a very old reefer probably from the 1950s, a wood-built car. This is at the western end. I call this the town of Plover, which was actually on a branch line going north from the Green Bay and Western main line. Is the scene on the staging level, and I'm using a mirror trick at the end to reflect the trees. This was the first section I built of the railroad. And in order to get some operation, I did a little scenery on it and created a switching puzzle. The building is an early fine scale miniatures kit. This was before they started doing their annual releases of one kit a year, but it still has the detail. Although when I met George Celius, he didn't think much of this kit compared to his more recent ones. The switching puzzle is basically because of the short tail track. Now the runaround track serves as the team track siding. So if you're just trying to place 3 cars, it's a challenge. If you try to do 4 cars, it's a real headache. 3 cars most people can get done. 4 cars keep them scratching their head for a while. Continuing around on the staging level a little bit from the switching puzzle area, I've got a Dinky Creek Bridge. Now this was a SS Limited or Scale Structures Limited kit. Lots of parts, nut bolt and washer castings. I think there's a prototype for it somewhere in Colorado. But the original bridge was on straight track. I built it for a farmer layout on a curve, so I had to widen it a little bit. Entered it into a regional contest and won some sort of a ribbon on it. Here's a scan of the railroad room from the entry. You can see here the 3 levels, the staging level, the Green Bay level in the middle, and the 3rd level where it will go, but it's just a storage area right now. Let me talk about some of the special features that I was able to build into this room. This is the light switch, nice power switches at the entry to the train room. There's been discussion in the local club. Be sure and tell people how you turn your railroad on. Apparently a bottler died and no one can figure out how to power up his railroad. The switch on the left turns on all the power for the railroad. Half the wall sockets in the room are designed for the railroad, so the half of them are turned on when that switch is turned on. And that also powers the command station and all the power packs and transformers on the railroad. More on powering the railroad. There are 2 toggle switches on the fascia for the staging area. The one on the left is for the programming track. When it's up, that's the programming track is set for programming. When it's down, it's for running trains. The switch on the right controls the track power. So the wall switch at the entrance and this switch along the west wall of the layout room is all you need to be able to run trains. Okay, some more on special features. These are shelf brackets that are available at Home Depot or Lowe's or other stores. To the extent the railroad is along the walls, it's supported by brackets attached to these uprights. I had the construction manager and myself come in, and we recessed these upright standards into the sheetrock so that they're flush with the sheetrock. On my last layout, they were mounted on top of the sheetrock. You can't really see it in this photo, but this is the corner. It's coved. The sheetrock crew coved the corners for me. Now, I tried to explain to the sheetrock people and the carpenters, the framers, how to do a valance. They never heard of such a thing. What we ended up doing is they built short walls for me, coming down from the ceiling. So it's a 10-foot ceiling in here, and the short walls come down 2 or 3 feet. After the room was completed, my son and I installed the drop ceiling panels with the fluorescent lights behind it. Train is coming up off the Helix Sioux line into Amherst Junction. Amherst Junction is a junction with is town where the Sioux line and the Green Bay and Western cross. The model here is Phillips Pulp Mill, which is a craftsman kit that I put together. The kit was produced by Builders in Scale. The kit. All the buildings in Amherst Junction are kits. This is a station which craftsman kit which I put together many years ago. It's been on several layouts. Instead of using the roofing in the kit, I use cedar cigar wrappings from what was then, I guess, 50-cent cigars, and cut them up for real cedar shakes. We have man and wife are on Cushman motorcycles. We have a local modeler who he and his wife like to ride around the countryside in antique Cushman motorcycles, and so when I see these, I think of him. Well, the train just went by. It went by at 9 miles an hour. That's the train speedometer. We're coming into New London now. And this looks like an ordinary Walther's Cornerstone kit, except it isn't. I built it for a train show module, and the problem was the kit was designed with the short end wall on the left and the right end, the wide end wall on the right. But for the module, I needed it reversed. So I built it backwards, with the wide end on the left and the short end on the right. And this is an interesting old car. It's a little kit, in the late 40s or 50s, wood deck on the flat car. Don't know where I got it. Now the dock at the team track is a make and take kit from a clinic. It was cast out of plaster, and what we had to do was to paint and weather it. The building here against the wall is a European kit, or from a European kit manufacturer. Picture on the outside of the box, it looked like it was a rather large building. I opened it up, it was much smaller than I thought. So I built it as a flat against the wall using 3 of the wall sections side by side to make a long building. White River Paper Company. There are a lot of paper companies in Wisconsin, and it's named for a local modeler. Oh, how many stars on the flag? I don't know if it'll show it on this or not. It's supposed to be 48. Never should have let Alaska in. It would still be the largest state in the Union in Texas. The bridge, again, I bought at a regional convention and found a good place on the railroad. A couple swans on the river. Some junk from a long ago train wreck casting. But the Mail Pooch tobacco sign is the decal I printed. And of course you got a dairy farm, because you're in dairy country when you're in Wisconsin. This track here is the Milwaukee interchange. So we're getting there to Green Bay now. In fact, this crossing is the yard limit. It's the crossing with the Milwaukee. I think this was an Alexander kit for the New York Central station I put together many years ago. Okay, we're in the cheese district in Green Bay now. This Chuck and Cheese is a Walther's Creamery kit. But look what's going on the roof. Well, first of all, they got a statue of a cow on top, a dairy cow. It looks like there's a cops and robbers shootout going on. And beside the cheese factory, there's a couple funny painted tanks, kind of like dairy cows. Is that just modeler's license, or is there a prototype? I found this photograph on the internet, so it must be a photograph or a prototype. And round roof metal buildings were common in the 40s and 50s. They're called Quonset huts. Okay, here's another fine scale miniatures kit. Inside there's a welder welding. The prototype for this kit was built, I think, by a Houston modeler, a master model railroader. He built it, it's on his railroad, and I think Fine Scale Models actually copied it and reproduced it. Cheese district, you got to have more than one cheese factory. So here's Ben and Larry's, named for a couple local modelers. It's a Craftsman kit. Took a while to build it. This is a plastic kit, Walther's kit. It took a while to build too. It's a modular kit. You can build it in many different shapes. And each wall section is separate. And it took a long time to build. When you get through, I'm asking myself, at least I'm asking myself, was it really worth the effort to build a plastic building? The burned out warehouse was acquisition from a train show. We are now in Green Bay. This is Norwood Yard. Most of my switches, turnouts on the railroad are hand thrown. And most of them are micro engineering turnouts. Here's a control panel with one powered turnout, which is difficult to reach, so it's powered at this point. The grain elevator is one of the signature structures in the railroad. It's a scratch built. Here's photographs of the prototype of Norwood Yard. The Sanger Sewing Machine Company is named for a family member. The turntable and future roundhouse is located where it would be on the prototype. And here's a track diagram for the prototype. Now, on the south side of the turntable was the car repair shop. That would be in the middle of the aisle for me. So my car repair shops are in the middle of the Y. Here's the back side, or the other side of Norwood Yard. Sanger Sewing Machine Company, the grain elevator. Now the prototype had a different name than Schaefer Grain, but Schaefer Grain's named for a local modeler. Here's another signature building from the yard, located at this point. There's a picture of the prototype. The train's passing a pickle factory near Norwood Yard. The factory at one time, and there was a pickle factory at that point, there was the track that was serviced by the railroad by a track that came off of this east leg of the Y and crossed the west leg of the Y and served the pickle factory. The factory is a scratch-built kit that I made, a long time ago. I think it was from a 1955 Model Railroader article of a Wisconsin pickle factory. Okay, here's a model of the joint station in Green Bay. Actually, it's primarily in the Northwestern Station. The Green Bay quit passenger operations back in the 30s. This is a laser acrylic kit produced by a hobby shop up in Green Bay. The train is now entering the town of New Franklin. I'm in the process of, this is the next area I'm going to scenic. The church was a building I bought at a train show years ago. This is a kit I'm currently working on. It's a fine scale kit. Bailey's produce. Range grain is a author's kit. A couple of stockyard kits I put together. Majestic Hardware and Feed is hasn't been renamed. This is a Bar Mills kit. When you compare the instructions for Bar Mills and the instructions for a fine scale kit, it's night and day. Bar Mills is bare minimal. Fine scale tells you how to comb your hair in the morning, basically. It's just lots of detail, lots of tips. Bar Mills does give you some tips. They're printed separately. You have an active website with suggestions on how to build their kits. They're interesting kits. I haven't done the station yet. This is an old building, old station I had on another railroad. Here's a scratch-built building I put together. Freight house and team track. Talbert tools. Green Bay Meat Packers was an old Dynamodels kit. They didn't tell me you're supposed to brace the walls. That's what both Bar Mills and Fine Scale Miniatures is teaching me to do. Another church model. Local modeler put this one together. Duffy's Coal Company. There's the fine scale miniatures I had. A couple buildings in the town of Casco Junction here came from a combination club and museum layout in Galveston that dismantled. And I brought it over, bought a couple of these kits. We're now coming into the town of Kewanee. But first we have to pass Noah's Ark. Now Noah's Ark sits on a train show module. There's Noah up there at the top. And a couple wives inside, and Japheth there negotiating for the hay. So here's the Great Lakes car ferry, the Bozeman. Classic John Allen's engine house, plastic kit of it. The Campbell Chama coaling tower, which I started years ago and never finished. Here's the yard These cars are waiting to go on the ferry, which is just docked. They need to pull the cars on the ferry. They will go on these empty tracks and be made up for an outgoing train. There are 30 cars here. They'll fill the ferry, and 30 cars come off the ferry. And a little humor, great KGB, Kewanee, Green Bay, Kewanee and Green Bay Railroad. That's what the railroad was known as between Green Bay and Kewanee. When they switched this freight station, the cars are assigned for specific doors. So that's the tour of the railroad.